I was giving out blankets at the end of the night, and I was down to my very last blanket. And there was still a group of people that were in line, and so that meant some of them were going to go away without receiving a blanket. So I gave out the last blanket, and I said, here, this is my last blanket. And the lady said, thank you so much. She was very happy to get the blanket. But another lady said, oh man, now I'm going to go without a blanket tonight. And immediately, the woman that had received the blanket turned and gave it to the other lady and said, here, you know what? If you really need it, then you take it. I can be okay for tonight, just for tonight.
Oh my goodness.
People of Christ in the City, people everywhere around the world, this is David Christopher Pacheco.
Hi, my name is Kimmy.
My name is Arthur Ortiz. Been in Denver since 1973.
Okay, so let's just talk in circles for a little bit.
Just talk in circles, just shoot the breeze a little.
You know, they see beyond what I look like. They see what my actions are and say, hey, that is a good person.
A lot of people say home is where the heart is, but my heart's in many places. It's just I don't know where home is.
Welcome back to Homeless But Human. Here with you today is Blake, and I am solo hosting as we are welcoming two guests from Phoenix. So we have John and Father Brian. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us here.
So a little backstory. How did John and Father Brian, all the way from Phoenix, get here? Well, we, throughout the year, have organizations that come and stop by, and we just learn from each other. We hear what they're doing well, they ask what we're doing well, and we just learn from each other, as well as the things that we can all grow in. John and Father Brian, maybe share a little bit about what made you come to Christ in the City and drew you to the program.
Sounds good. So I'm Father Brian. I'm a priest of the Congregation of Holy Cross, and I serve at Andre House of Hospitality in Phoenix as the chaplain and pastoral director. So we serve the homeless population in downtown Phoenix in many different ways, but we're always interested in learning from other ministries, collaborating. And Christ in the City is a ministry I've heard a lot about.
Great. And for me, I came to know Christ in the City through just different connections that I've had over the years. I've been very blessed to attend conferences, hearing Dr. Jonathan Reyes speak over the years. And
he's a good speaker.
Oh, he's a wonderful speaker, absolutely. And then getting to know Christ in the City, first from him, and then because of my family in Philadelphia, getting to be excited, hearing that, oh, Christ in the City is coming to Philadelphia, and then getting set up there. And my family still speaks very highly of you all.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, John. Yeah, we didn't know John was from Philly. He didn't prove it until he asked for some water today. So it was one where it was like, we were like, well, he says he's from Philly. Who knows? And then he proved it.
Yep.
You didn't even think about it. It was just happened.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And I always learn when I'm in Phoenix and somebody hears my accent because they point it out immediately.
Yeah.
But growing up, you would drink water. You put water in the radiator of your car. The radiator radiates heat.
Yeah. Wow. I see. It's amazing. Philly is its own place, folks. If you've never been, well, it's its own place.
Absolutely. It's wonderful.
We love it. We love it.
Great cheesesteaks.
Great cheesesteaks. Yeah. And we're so grateful, again, to be in Philly and the community there. Man, they have taken us in, both on the streets and the greater community. So grateful. That warm, welcoming spirit. Once you're there to stay, they're happy.
Yep. Well, thank you for the good work you're doing there for the people there.
Happy to do it. So with Christ in the City, we send our missionaries and the volunteers with them to the streets, and we encounter the poor. And we don't offer services. So it's pretty clear how we encounter the poor, knowing that is like the first step forward. But one of the things with the Andre House is they do offer services, and I don't think they have neglected that encounter. So first, if you guys wouldn't mind speaking to what kind of services does Andre House all provide? Because it's kind of like a variation in some ways.
Yeah, I like to talk about Andre House in terms of being an actual home. We started out in a neighborhood in Phoenix as an actual home in the Catholic worker tradition, and we eventually grew to the building where we're at now. But we have all the same amenities that you and I have at home.
Yeah.
So ultimately, our largest service is a dinner service. We feed between 500 and 700 people every night.
Wow.
Those numbers creep up towards the end of each month. Sometimes they'll break 800. And then during the course of the day, guests can come. They can get a shower if they need shower. We do their laundry if they have laundry.
Yeah.
We have clothing available for them. We have hygiene kits available. And we just have a space where they can come spend time. They can sit in our dining room during the course of the day and hang out, talk to each other, charge their electronics if they need that, or just be present and talk to the team.
Something else so special about Andre House is it was founded by 2 Holy Cross priests serving in Phoenix. And so we've always had the presence of our religious priests and also Holy Cross brothers, which provides a special spiritual support for our guests. We have daily mass where I'm available as well as chaplain to do pastoral counseling, provide the sacraments as well for those of our guests who are Catholic seeking confession or anointing of the sick.
Yeah.
I'm available throughout the week for those things as well. So we really try and provide a home, a spiritual home as well.
Wow, I love that. So you don't only have the services, but you have the spiritual presence. And, clerics stick out with the poor, right? I mean,
yes. I know. I noticed that when I first arrived at Andre House, actually, I was walking through the parking lot, and I was happening to come from an event where I was wearing the full cassock, and I was turning a lot of eyes in the zone.
Yeah.
And one guy turned and looked at me and exclaimed that he'd never seen a priest in the wild before.
Wait, that's what he said.
Yeah,
a priest in the wild.
Out in the wild, on the streets. Yeah.
Wow.
So I really took that to heart, that there is something very powerful about the church going out of itself in order to encounter people on the streets. I know our Holy Father, Pope Francis, has told that to the priests a number of times to make sure you're getting out of the sacristies, out of the presbyteries, and out into the streets to meet people where they are.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we regularly have priests come through Christ in the City, and a lot on mission trips, right? Joining as a chaplain on mission trips. And I've had the privilege of walking the streets with priests. And I mean, you'd know this, John, you'd know this just from being there. There's a respect, which also means that there's also some vitriol thrown at priests from time to time, right? We're not ignorant. We know that's a reality too. But more often than not, I'm just blown away by the poor's reception to the holiness of a priest. Right? I don't know if you have any stories, Father, but I can think of one where it's like we were out there with a priest, and one of the men immediately showed a satanic tattoo he had gotten. And just like I saw this guy every day, and he was like wanting the priest's help. It was remarkable. He's like, Father, I have this and I don't want it anymore. Like,
wow.
Can you like, it was just this remarkable moment of like, I knew this man every day on my route, and this brought out a different side, a deeper reality of him. And he was ashamed, but he knew that the priest was exactly the person who could help him. Have you seen that with your own time there of just, that reality?
I have. Yeah, the collar is a very powerful symbol to people of not just the church, which it is a symbol of the church for good and for bad that people associate with it, but it's a spiritual symbol of Christ. And so for the most part, my encounters are very, very powerful, very good. And it cuts across denominations. I get called pastor, preacher, in addition to father.
Yeah.
So, sometimes people see a priest and they have a complaint against the church, and I receive that. But often I get asked spontaneously a lot for blessings, for prayers. Father, pray for me. Father, pray for my family. And so that's something I really take to heart.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So going back to the services Andre House offers, and I love the idea of how it was founded. I wasn't aware that it came really from a house. So just going at it from a home perspective, how has this shaped the way you treat the guests throughout the day? And John, what would you speak to? What is the disposition of the hearts of your volunteers and employees you guys try to have and show at the Andre House?
So at Andre House, our fundamental mission is to make God known, loved, and served. And we do that by providing the corporal works of mercy. And fundamentally, we want to welcome every person where they're at and show them the love of God. So we want to make God's known, loved to them. And it's not just the people who are experiencing homelessness. It's also the volunteers that come through the door. It's also the staff that comes through the door. Anybody that comes through the door, we're going to treat the same way and recognize the value of their worth.
Yeah. I feel like that too had to have just flown from the hospitality of a home reality.
Yeah, and there's very much a family feel at Andre House. The volunteers will come together, the staff comes together, and the guests come together too. So one great example is we just brought chairs and tables into our parking lot, and they're very heavy. And as we were backing the truck up, there was a whole group of guests outside, people experiencing homelessness that wanted to help us because they love who we are. They love what we do. And they immediately jumped in and they got the chairs down, they got the tables down, and they were able to help and contribute to it. And they were just so grateful. They were smiling from ear to ear saying, thank you for letting us help and thank you for letting us be a part of this. And that really captures a lot of the essence of Andre House. Is we try to have that personalist approach where we recognize who they are and they want to give back as well. So it's a very beautiful relationship.
Yeah, we see that at our lunch in the park as well. Right, our regular friends who come, they love to work. Right, and I just see this resonating here of like, yeah, that's real. Like our friends love when we allow them to join in on the work. And with your organization, you guys have a missionary core team as well. So what kind of work do they do at Andre House?
Yeah, so our core team are young adult interns who are living and doing a year of service with us. They do everything. They kind of help run the place, all of our ministries. So they not only will supervise our other volunteers, especially when it comes time for preparing the main meal, which is the main work of the day, but also overseeing our shower shifts, our clothing closet. We have different services, different shifts that we staff throughout the day, and one of those is simply called porter. And so porter is in charge of the parking lot and receiving guests, receiving volunteers, receiving donations. And it's very much in the tradition of our patron saint. We're named for St. Andre Bessette, who was a Holy Cross brother. And he was assigned the porter of the school where he served in Montreal. And his job was simply to welcome people. And he turned what was a very simple ministry into a thriving ministry where he would welcome the poor, he would welcome the sick, he would welcome anyone to the door and pray with them. There was many miraculous healings that came about through the intercession of St. Joseph. And so we really follow him in that we try to welcome people where they are and just talk to them, pray with them, be with them without necessarily any other agenda than just kind of greeting them, welcoming them.
And what a great patron saint of the building and of the ministry. And you mentioned slightly the porter, but like, be real with us. The porter isn't the most attractive job, right? It may be now because of St. Andre Bessette, but how was that job looked at before he and even you guys built up the dignity of that? St. Andre Bessette makes that almost a desirable job. So, what is it about that?
So that's a good question. And when you look at the porter in the tradition of the church, there's been a lot of saints who were porters, not just St. Andre. There's also Solanus Casey.
He was a porter too.
He was a porter as well. And then there are other porters.
Yeah, there's a book I've seen it's called God's Doorkeepers. And it's on St. Andre Bessette, St. Padre Pio, and Blessed Solanus Casey as well.
And I think a lot of it is that idea of welcoming. They would have a brother or a priest tend to the door. That way they would welcome the guests who came in. And with St. Andre's case, he was told by his superior that people shouldn't go away empty-handed. And so he would pray with them, he would be with them, talk to them. And then as they began to present their ailments to him, he would go get oil from the lamp of St. Joseph and give it to the people, and miracles began to occur. And so I think there's something special about the dignity of porter and the office of porter, where you get to have that very human interaction, and yet it's a very deep spiritual interaction. People come to the door and you receive them where they're at for who they are, no matter how they are. And you get to have that conversation, and you get to make it about God and the needs of God and his people. And so there is something truly blessed about the ministry of porter overall.
Yeah, I can say that for myself as a priest, it's a very refreshing ministry. So much often as priests, we're busy with busy work. We're just doing stuff in the office. We have administration and other tasks. And so for me to be able to sit, we have a little prayer. We have a little room by the entrance. We call it our little prayer parlor. It's kind of a chapel. It's kind of a welcome, a room kind of like this where you welcome people. And so I'll sit there for kind of my office hours during the week, and people will just come in and they'll see the priest, and sometimes they'll see the priest and the crucifix, and they'll break down into tears and just kind of start sharing stories of abuse or stories of just things, creating a space where people can share what they need to share and be who they need to be. So for me, it's a very beautiful thing to minister in that way, where I don't know who's going to walk through the door or what they're going to need or what, but I'm there to welcome them as Christ.
And for me, it's had the Porter station has had a lot of impact just from a personal standpoint. When I was a kid and somebody knocked on the door, we would get all excited and run to the door at home and find out who it is.
Yeah.
As I got older, we began to hide. The doorbell would ring and we would go hide, like, oh no, we don't want anybody to come in. And it was very unwelcoming. You know, somebody knocked at the door or whatever, and we would hide from that. And then now fast forward to when my own doorbell rings, I'm about 50-50 at home. Like, I'll be like, okay, oh, somebody's at the door. Or I'll be like, oh man, somebody's at the door. And
this is going to wreck with my night plans, you know? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And is it one of my neighbors? I love my neighbors. I get along great with my neighbors. So I'm always happy to see them. Or is it a canvasser? Oh, did you register to vote today? Or do you want to get signed up with X ballot or whatever? And those conversations can be a little bit difficult. But what being at Andre House, being the porter at Andre House has taught me is to really put aside my own personal frustrations and embrace whoever is at my own physical door. And then it also happens spiritually too, where if I'm out and about and I might have an Andre House shirt on, or if I am just going about my day, it's my day off, and somebody wants to come up to me, spiritually, there are times where I've closed myself off and be like, oh, I'm too tired to talk to people and not had conversations. But many times now, as a result of being porter at Andre House, I've learned how to be more welcoming and see God more in who the other person is.
Yeah.
So that inconvenience turns into a God moment. And it's really helped me in my spiritual life and really fall in love with God as I'm out and about and talking to people.
Yeah, as well. The logo or symbol of Andre House actually is an open door. So it kind of comes from that tradition of the porter. But what John was saying also reminds me of a phrase we used in seminary of the ministry of interruptions. That often as a priest, we think our ministry is when we're doing our ministry, and don't interrupt my ministry. I scheduled this time to do confessions. I scheduled this time to do my homily prep. I scheduled this time. But actually, some of the most powerful moments in ministry happen when you get the ring on the doorbell, the person that drops by the parish office and in a crisis. And they need help now. They need their attention now. And there is something very powerful I've experienced that as a priest, some of the most powerful encounters with people come in that crisis, come when I'm interrupted and when I think my ministry is being interrupted, but that's actually God interrupting, what I think is my own important work.
Oh, I love that. Two things from that are just remarkable. It's like a ministry of interruptions to start with that, right? Like we talk about our lives and it's like, man, even our missionaries. And when I was a missionary, it was the same way. It's like, all right, the hours I'm supposed to be on the streets, I'm going to be incredibly generous and present. But man, if something comes up and I have to be available in the middle of the night or one of our friends needs help, it's like, no, it's like a gut reaction of like, no, that's interrupting my selfishness. It's like that understanding of like just what we desire. And, it's just what a poor way of viewing the creativity of God, right? Like almost saying like, Lord, no, providence. Yes. Yeah, my plan was better than your providence. Like, no, don't ask me for help. And I love that of like the priest being a ministry of one of interruptions, but realizing like the grace of the Lord is always and surprising.
Yes.
And then as you mentioned, John, I love that of the porter is how we're called to serve the poor. And it's like the just open arms welcoming. And I loved everything you said, and I want to turn it to the active listening that being a porter requires, right? Like people are coming up, and a true porter knows that like they may be here for all sorts of reasons, right? And it is my role to not have them walk up and have an agenda when they're walking to this door, but to say like, to listen, to see them where they're at, to receive them where they're at, and then to ask what they need and hear them out. And I like that. The things you said, especially about, just welcoming into the home and being excited to see them and the joy of that with that, ministry of interruptions. But at the same time, it's like the truest form of active listening, just being receptive, knowing you're not in a rush somewhere. You're not, itching to get out of it. I mean, if anything, it's a beautiful way of living that.
Yeah. And it can be very difficult as well. And I'm sure that Christ in the City missionaries experience this when our guests or your friends in the street, or especially Andreas, we experience a lot when our guests will come to the porter station, they will come to the gate and they will ask for things. And we're often able to help them. We're able to go and get maybe an item that they need or assist them directly. But
totally.
But there's as many other times that we're not able to assist them with their specific request.
Yeah.
And so to learn how to say no, or not now, or to do that in a way that also, respects and honors their deeper spiritual need. It's a challenge. It's hard to say no sometimes, but at the very least, we can say no to something, but we can still provide ourselves. We can still give our attention. We can give our love, which is more important.
Totally. And as a recovering people pleaser myself, it's one of those where it's like, saying no, you feel like you are letting them down. Mm-hmm. But we know that in the way we say no, we can show them a lot of dignity as well. Like, I hear you, man, you really want that right now, and I hear that. And unfortunately, I'm not able to give that to you, but no, I care. It's just that reality.
Oh yeah. And the guests respect that too. When they're told, we can't get that for you right now, but come back again or try again, or that's not something that we can do here at Andre House, but we try to give them another solution. The guests very much respect that. And I think that does help build credibility or street cred.
Yeah.
For any ministry, when you're straight up like that, it's very important.
Yeah, we say this a lot, and I've used this in my own personal life as well. Never promise anything you can't guarantee, right? Our friends, the guests at Andre House, they are used to being let down, right? They are used to being promised things and just abandoned, and realizing in our desire to please, sometimes we do attempt to make those promises, and it just is not helpful. It's not helpful, but sharing gosh, we really hope we can have that tomorrow, and, come back, and we hope to. And it's just this reality too of being honest with what we can offer. I think it's a good check too when we don't have things.
Yeah. I always try to live that which St. Andre was told, don't send people away empty-handed. And so I always keep little prayer cards on me. And so right now my stack is a picture of the Good Shepherd, and it's got the Our Father on the back of it. I think I stole it from you, Father Brian. I stole it from your office.
I have.
But if a guest does come up to me and they ask for something and we're not able to give it, I tend to say, you know what, I don't have that available at this time. And then I try to make a little bit light of, if it's something that I can make light of on my side, I'll make a self-denigrating joke and say, oh, okay, well, I can't get that for you, but then I do have this. I do have this prayer card.
Yeah.
So please have this. And people are very receptive and they understand.
Yeah. I think we talk about this all the time. When we pull up to a stop sign and, we hear all the time, well, if I don't have anything, I don't roll down my window. It's okay, understandable, right? Understandable. But what I've found in my own personal experience, my anecdote here is I have only been declined once. I've only been truly rejected once. Otherwise it's, hey, my name's Blake. I don't have anything for you today, but just want to say hello. The power of that, right? And it's the St. Andre Basset, don't leave people empty-handed, whether that's a hello, or a prayer card. That means something. Don't take those small gestures for granted.
No, it's true. During the Easter season, we heard from the story of the Acts of the Apostles, where I believe it was St. Peter in the temple area was being asked. They were begging for alms, and I don't know the quotation exactly, but St. Peter says that gold and silver I do not have, but what I do give you, in the name of Jesus, stand and walk.
Wow.
And I think of that often, that I don't have gold, I don't have silver, but I can't necessarily give you what you're asking for, but I'll give you what I do have, which is my relationship with Christ. I give you a prayer. I'll give you a blessing.
Wow, Father, that's wow. Yeah. Right. And even seeing St. Peter, he acknowledges it. He doesn't say that's a foolish request. I'll give you something way better. Right. It's imagine if you had someone come to Andre House and you're no, I don't have that material good for you. Let me offer you a prayer. Right. It's again,
you want food?
Yeah. It's you want food? Do you not know what I can offer you? It's no, that is not coming with that open heart we talked about, that welcoming receptivity where you're actively listening. It's coming with gosh, I hear you. And I can't actually give that. Sometimes you can. I can't. And I'll offer you this, and just realizing that what we do have to offer, we shouldn't be ashamed of or afraid of, or just how St. Peter, he was a bold man though, right? They say times are different, but he was just bold. Yeah, just a bold man. So I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, but prayer cards are a good idea. I've also learned to start stocking up in rosaries. Those are pretty popular in the zone. People, even among non-Catholics, they see that as a sign of God's protection, of God's love for them. So yeah, I do give a lot of those out along with blessings, medals, prayer cards.
Wow.
Scapulars.
Mm-hmm.
All those powerhouse, what are sacramentals the church has given us.
Indeed.
Well, do you two have any stories you'd like to share about just your own experience serving the poor? Maybe where, it was just a powerful story from your bank, or a moment where it really changed you serving the poor.
The stories and the things that I've experienced at Andre House have been super impactful to me. And so a lot of it comes in the course of the ordinary, which is how I encounter God in my own spiritual life, is through a lot of little just everyday encounters.
Yeah.
And so for me, the things that I see on a regular basis are just very uplifting. And I'll see it where there's guests at Andre House and one of them gets a new phone and is trying to program it, and another guest says, well, I can help you with that. Or if one area is closed down, a guest might say, hey, go try this other area. Or one of the most impactful stories that happened to me recently, or scenes that I saw recently, was I was giving out blankets at the end of the night, and I was down to my very last blanket. And there was still a group of people that were in line, and so that meant some of them were going to go away without receiving a blanket. So I gave out the last blanket, and I said, here, this is my last blanket. And the lady said, thank you so much. She was very happy to get the blanket. But another lady said, oh man, now I'm going to go without a blanket tonight. And immediately, the woman that had received the blanket turned and gave it to the other lady and said, here, you know what? If you really need it, then you take it. I can be okay for tonight, just for tonight.
Oh, my goodness.
They have nothing. They have these little things, and that blanket and that act of love, oh my goodness, was absolutely amazing. And that has impacted me to give of myself, even when I'm tired, even when I have things that might be needed by other people, to try to give that to them. And that's impacted my own personal life with my children. When my kids say, Daddy, I need something, and I'm not feeling like getting it for them, I stop and remember, oh wait, this woman gave her blanket away. And
wow.
So I have to get up off of the couch and I got to go, get my kids ready for bed or whatever, or get them new toothpaste out of the cupboard. So for me, it's taught me a lot of kind of putting myself aside for the sake of the other with those little actions that our guests have.
Isn't it shocking how much our friends in these poor situations give to each other? I see more generosity amongst the friends on the street I've made than even in myself. I'm like, oh, they're giving a large portion of what their worth is in a material standpoint. And I'm so afraid to give so little, right? Oh, it's inspiring.
It is 100%. Yep.
So inspiring. Father?
Yeah, the story that came to mind is one I've been reflecting on. It's from Holy Week. It's the washing of feet, which is a rite that we know from the liturgy and from our parishes. But it's often a very sanitized experience in the liturgy. People come to Mass with their feet already clean for Father to wash their feet, and it's a very warm experience of the community. There's usually beautiful music playing during the washing of feet. And it's a very touching and moving experience. And there's a reason for that. We learn in the liturgy, how we're supposed to love in the world. But we at Andre House and other ministries, we do during Holy Thursday, we do a washing of feet for those in the street. And it is not the sanitized version in your parish. It's pretty gross sometimes. We have a lot of foot diseases, sores, smell. And so we're actually washing feet with soap and gloves, and we also have other sanitary products for them, lotion. We give them foot powder and a pair of fresh socks as well. So it's a very beautiful experience. But to me, the contrast that was cut for me between doing it in the liturgy and doing it on the street, there's something very powerful about the way that they go together.
Yeah,
there's something very real about it. But another thing that struck me when we were washing the feet on the street, we had a protocol to follow for health and hygiene. We had to wear gloves and change the water between each guest. But there was one guest who he he wanted to wash feet. And so I had to make sure that he wore the gloves and followed our protocol.
Whoa.
So I ended up helping him. I helped one of our guests wash other guests' feet. And so for me to see that zeal, that he didn't just want to have us wash his feet. He wanted to also to be involved in that. And so there was one scene in particular. I remember I was helping him. We went to a man in a wheelchair to wash his feet, and he was missing one of his feet. And so we ended up washing the stub of his foot for him. And so that was a very powerful experience for me to do that kind of with one of our guests. To wash the feet of other guests was a very powerful experience that stuck with me all through Easter.
Wow. That is a powerful image. Like, even if you were to just stop at washing of the feet, period, right? Like, that is its self. But for one of your guests to be like, whoa, I want to do this. I want to serve. And going back to what John said, the generosity of the poor. I mean, I don't know if you were the first time you did that, Father Brian, if you're like, oh, wow, can't wait to do this, live out my priestly ministry. My guess is there was a little like, wasn't necessarily looking forward to that, but
it's real. It's very real.
Yeah,
yep.
Totally. And just to see one of your guests be that zealous and understand the greater impact. I mean, we just learned we are a gift to the poor, and I think they're a greater gift to us. Just their example, their lives, the presence of Christ they show in these little ways, like John mentioned. Wow. Well, Father and John, thank you so much for being on. Any final things to say?
I just want to say thank you for having us out here. It's been a very big blessing for me to get to see the operation here at the headquarters, and then to hear all the work that you're doing. And as I've gotten to know Christ in the City over the past few years, I've been very energized in my ministry to serving the less fortunate and to serving the more fortunate as well, serving everybody. But a lot of that has come because I've seen the corporal works of mercy in action.
Yeah.
Thanks to Christ in the City, thanks to Andre House, the work that we're doing, and really all the other service-based organizations where people will sacrifice of their lives for the sake of their brothers and sisters who are in need. And so what you do is very much appreciated. And so I'm very grateful to you for having us out here.
Yeah, thank you so much, John.
Yeah, as well, I would echo that. There are so many ways to make Christ known, loved, and served in our world. And I think the works of mercy are a very, very privileged way and a very formative way, especially for our young people. And so I know that's one of the things that I'm very impressed here is the formation provided, the formation and the witness to so many young people who come through Christ in the City to experience Christ, to experience God in some very ugly situations, and to learn how to meet the Lord there, but also to share and witness to the hope that we have in Him.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it's not a sanitized faith, right? Like we are truly
Yeah.
There's
young people do have a way of romanticizing it, and that's good. But they also need people to accompany them when it's not romantic.
Absolutely, and just because that is, the reality of this Christian experience we're called to be on together, and
it's hard.
And we love that you get to be here with us, and we get to share and learn from each other, and I love the word energizing, right? Like the beauty of the church is we're energized by others' desire and pursuit of holiness, right? It energizes. It doesn't take away from ours, but in fact, it builds upon ours. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for what you're striving for at the Andre House, what you're doing. I think the feet washing visual, this porter understanding of just being a welcoming presence, not having an agenda when they come. Two really powerful things you two have left us with. So to all our listeners, thank you so much. Pray for the Andre House. Please keep praying for Christ in the City, and God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Homeless But Human today. In order to keep producing this content for you all, we invite you to consider joining our known and loved monthly giving community. This is one of the most impactful ways that you can join us on mission. Your monthly gift sends missionaries out to the streets day after day and helps us to continue recording and sharing our podcast. It's our vision that every city not only has soup kitchens and shelters, but communities who are committed to helping the homeless know that they have a home in us. And what is home but a small taste of Christ's infinite love? Visit christinthecity.org and make a monthly gift today to join our known and loved community. And if you enjoyed today's episode, do us a favor and go hit subscribe and leave a review. To get more involved with the mission, visit christinthecity.org.